Hello everyone and welcome to another video on JavaScript programming. Kaushal this side from SimpliCode, and today we are going to discuss error handling in JavaScript. It might sound a bit weird that is it possible to handle those errors we get while working on a JavaScript program? We'll find the answer to this question in this particular video. So before we begin, make sure that you are subscribed to our YouTube channel and press that bell icon to never miss an update from SimpliCode. So without any further delay, let's get started. Now, errors are something that we get at times while working on a program. Generally, there are different types of errors present in almost every programming language. Errors like syntax error, runtime errors, and logical errors. So syntax errors are those errors a user can't control. We have to correct the syntax for that. That's the only option with syntax errors. For example, let's say we have a function that will print something on the console on calling. So let's create a function here. We'll go to a JavaScript file and we'll create a function here. So let's say the function name is f1. Fine. And this function will print something on the console. So let's say it prints this is function 1. Fine. Now, this is a function that will print this string on the console, but let's say we forgot to put the closing bracket of this function by mistake, or let's say the closing part was deleted and we are not aware of it. So this part was deleted or we forgot to put it there, and what we'll do is we'll call this function. We tried to call this function. Let's call it first. We'll call function 1, save it and go to the console. So here in console, you can see that it returns an error here. It says syntax error, unexpected end of input. And the best part is we can't do anything for it, except for we can put that closing bracket in its place again. So if we put this closing bracket here again, now it will work fine. Save it, and here you can see we have the output as this is function 1. So these type of errors when occur in a program are known as syntax errors. Another type of error that occurs in a program is runtime error. Runtime errors are those errors through which the system comes across during the execution of a program. For example, let's say if we have another function here. So let's add another function here. We'll write here function f2 and the body will print something on the console again. So we'll copy this from here and instead of function 1 we'll write a function 2. Save it, and we haven't called this function yet. So let's imagine a scenario that you created a function f2 and later somewhere in the program you realize that you created a function and you need to call that function, but you are not sure of the name of that function. So let's say you called another function but the function name was wrong. So let's say instead of function 2, we called another function f4. Let's call this, let's try to do it, save it, and here you can see our first function is working fine. But when the system reaches function f2, it encountered an error here. Although there is nothing wrong with the syntax, we are trying to call a function that does not exist. So these type of errors are known as reference error in a program. We can fix these type of error with the help of try, catch and throw block. We'll see it later. These are the different types of errors that might occur in a program, but sometimes there are situations in which we want to print an error to the user. It might be for the data entered by the user or for the data we are getting from the server. Basically, we are talking about custom errors that we create ourselves to make the flow of program more smooth. We came across the try and catch block in the previous video, wherein we used these keywords with the async await in JavaScript. So there we saw how these blocks were working to print an error when the user asks for something other than black coffee. If you haven't watched that video yet, please go through it. You can find it in this playlist. So let's do one thing here and we'll create a small prototype of the same program wherein we will have a function that will print a string on the console. So let me comment this out, guys. Now we'll create another function here. So let's say we are writing here function make order. Fine. So this is the function we created in the last video as well. So let's say inside the body of this function we'll write something on the console. So we'll write here console.log and we'll write here is your black coffee, enjoy your day. Fine. Now we will go through the syntax of try and catch block first, and we'll see why we use these try and catch blocks in a program. So before we move on to the try and catch block, let me clear one thing, guys. It's not only the try and catch blocks we use for these purposes. We have another block in JavaScript that is always independent of these two blocks and doesn't need any condition to run. So the inclusion of the finally block in error handling depends upon the user. You can either add it or leave it. There will be no effect on the program. So now let's move ahead and we'll go through the syntax of try and catch first, and then we'll move on to the finally block, because finally block is different from try and catch. So let's go through the try and catch first. So we'll write here try and press. So we'll write here try, and you can see this is the syntax of try and catch block. The catch contains an argument with it and it will catch the error returned by the try block. So let's write the code here and then we'll go through it. We want to run this function inside the try block, and if the function exists, the try block will execute it. Otherwise, a customized error will be thrown to the user. So we'll call this function inside the try block. So we'll write here make order, and we have called this function. Now, if the function exists, the try block will execute it. There will be no problem in that. We are asking the computer to try executing this line, and if this line does not exist, show the user the error we want to show, not the one set by default. So the customized error will write inside the catch block, and inside the catch block we'll write here console.log, and let's say it says sorry. So this is the error we want to show. The error says sorry, an error occurred in your program. Now let's execute this once and then we'll see it again thoroughly. So this code will not show an error. Save it and it will execute the function make order, and the output will be here's your black coffee, enjoy your day. Right. But if we execute here another function that does not even exist, like we did for the runtime errors. So if we write here, let's say another function. So let's say the other function name is process order. Fine. So this function does not exist in the entire program. Now the system will go inside the try block and it will execute the make order function first. The make order function will be executed without any problem, but the moment it will come across the function process order, it will find it out that no such function exists in the program. That's when it will move to the next block and it will throw an error to the user. So save this program and you can see here it says here is your black coffee, enjoy your day first, and then it says sorry, an error occurred in your program. So this is how you can show an error to the user, a customized error we can say. If we call this process order function outside of the try block, the scenario will change and the error will be different. So let me show you guys. What we'll do is we'll cut this process order from here and we'll call this process order function outside of the try and catch block. Now we have called this process order function here and we know this function does not exist in the program. So let's save it, and here you can see it says uncaught reference error, process order is not defined. So this is a runtime error here. Now this is the default error you get in JavaScript. This is the default way in which you can get an error in JavaScript. So there are certain things we can do with errors in JavaScript, which are, let's say if you want to print the error as well in the console. So we just have to write here console.log error. And one more thing we have to do is we have to move this process order function from here back again to its original position. So save it now, and here you can see we have a reference error. Now this statement will print the whole error in the form of text, and the user will know the type of error as well. Apart from that, we can also print only the message or the name of the error. So for that we have to write here console.log error.name for the name of error, and console.log log error dot message for the error message. So save it, and here you can see we have reference error and as the name of error, and the message is process order is not defined. So this part of the error is the message and this part is the name. Now we are left with the finally block only. We have already discussed that the finally block is independent of the two blocks and it will be executed anyway if present in a program. So the syntax for finally block goes like this. What we'll do is we'll remove these three statements from a program and we'll write here finally, and inside the finally, let's say we want to print something on the console. So let's say we'll write here this block will execute no matter what. Now this finally block will be executed anyhow. Save it, and here you can see we have the output as this block will execute no matter what. Let's do one thing. Let's take this process order function from here and we'll paste it here. Save it now, and here you can see now none of the three blocks is executing, right? So what we have to do is we have to put it back in its place. One more thing we will discuss before wrapping up this video is the throw keyword in JavaScript. With this keyword, we can throw an error anywhere in the program. The message will be customizable and the type will be uncaught error. Fine. Let's see an example of this type of error handling with the help of basic if-else statement. So let's say we have a condition here in which we have a variable. So let me comment this piece of code as well first. Now let's say we have a condition here in which we have a variable a and the value of a is, let's say, 9. The condition we have to check here is if a is less than 10, then an error should be thrown, otherwise the system should print something, right? So let's move on to the programming part and you'll understand it. So what we'll do is we'll declare a variable a and the value of variable a will be 9. Now the if statement will have a condition that if a is less than 10, throw an error. So what we have to do is we have to write here throw new error, fine, and the message will be, let's say, this is a customizable error, fine. This is the message, and we have to mention the else statement here as well. So inside the else statement we'll write here console.log working fine, let's say. So the if else block does not matter that much in this case. The only thing I want you guys to see here is the throw keyword. Save this program here and we have the value as 9, and what we wanted to throw an error if the value is less than 10. Save it, and here you can see we have a familiar representation of this error different from the try catch block. The message is customizable and it says this is a customizable error. So this is how we can throw an error in the program wherever we want to. I hope you guys got it. So that's all for this video, guys. See you in the next one where we will go through regular expressions in JavaScript. If you liked this video, do give it a thumbs up. If you have any doubts, do let us know in the comments below. Share it with your friends and don't forget to subscribe SimpliCode. Thank you.